This video brought to you by the man, the myth, the legend, Vinny Lamikins Lamica. Some call him the Airstream Whisperer. Campfire question. Air guitar edition. Hey guys, we are Sean and Christy. This is Long Honeymoon, coming at you today with a great topic courtesy of Christinette8183, who says, "Hello folks, thanks for all your diligent work. You've made our lives much easier as we moved into RVing and then full-timing. How about a discussion of seasonal campers? We've tried to do our due diligence and investigated a campground that looked just fine on the web, only to discover that it's about 75% seasonal campers who show up on weekends to party down, blast loud music, drink beer, and be generally obnoxious." That was me, and I apologize for that. Campground reviews don't always reveal this. If travelers stay a day or two or three during the week, it's nice and quiet and the rules are observed. If they stay over the weekend, peace and quiet are foreign ideas. How can a traveler, particularly somebody who wants to spend weeks in a high-interest place, ferret out how much of the park is actually residential or seasonal? Have you experienced this? Is it becoming more of a problem? What other challenges are becoming more common for RVers who actually travel? So in this video, we're going to give you 5 strategies to find peace and quiet in campgrounds. And before we begin, I'm going to suggest a cheat. Don't stay in a campground. You could just boondock 100 miles away from everyone and be outside a campground, but that is cheating. So we're going to focus on campground stays. Tip number 1, research your campgrounds wisely. These days, you have more resources than ever before to know what you're getting into.
Yeah, I mean, campground reviews are plentiful. There are lots of different websites you can explore for that. I think Compendium is probably your best resource just because I feel like most of the reviews there are very thorough and people do give details on things like noise level, what your fellow campers are going to be like, that sort of thing. The other thing that you could do is simply call the campground and say, hey, what's your weekend look like? You know, are there a lot of loud groups there? I really want somewhere that's going to be quiet and peaceful. Does your RV park match what I'm looking for? And I think most of them would be honest with you and say, you know, we have bigger groups on the weekend. It tends to be a little more rowdy because they don't want you to get there and be unhappy and then make a fuss about it. The other thing I think you could do is go on Facebook or Instagram, anywhere that you're a member of some sort of RVing group. Like we're a member of several Airstream specific groups on Facebook. And I think going into those kind of forums and just asking, has anybody ever stayed at this campground? Was it noisy on the weekends? What do you think? And I think people are generally going to try to help you out.
And quite often, those campgrounds themselves will have specific pages on Facebook, for example, and that's a good way to communicate with the campground beforehand and ask some questions about what you're getting into.
Yeah, and you might also scroll through their page to see if anybody else has left comments discussing, you know, noise or peace and quiet or what have you, whatever you're looking for to see if it's going to fit your requirement.
So I think what Christine is referring to, she's calling seasonal campers. I think we're really talking about recreational.
Yeah, just weekend campers.
And ironically, RV is recreational vehicle. And yes, a lot of people go RV camping to kind of relax and blow off steam, and sometimes they might make a little bit of noise. So tip number 2 is to, whenever possible, opt for off-peak days and weekdays, because weekends, especially during the summer months, can get rowdy in a lot of these campgrounds. You know, when I was a teenager, camping was a code word for hanging out with friends and drinking beer. Some of the rowdier campers that I've encountered in parks and campgrounds have been tent campers, because a lot of times we're talking about, frankly,
young broke college students,
young men who want to go out, play music, drink beer with their buddies. And these may be the type of campers you're encountering. You know, something you can do when you're looking into a campground, talk to the staff beforehand and ask, are there certain sites that are more private and more quiet than others. Let the staff know that that is your top priority, and maybe they will put you into a site that is not right next to the big tent party site.
Yeah, you don't want to be next to the group camp tent site where there's going to be like 30 people. Because we do encounter those sometimes in certain state parks or, just recreational areas of that sort of thing. Yeah, that's when you're going to encounter big groups that are loud, a bunch of teenagers. And most of them, I would say, don't mean harm. Occasionally you do encounter those people that are just drunk and rowdy and just being a complete jerk. We've had very, very few of those situations.
Yeah, that's pretty rare.
Very rare.
Again, to circle back to boondocking, you might stay in the peaceful, quiet campground during the week and then pull up stakes and go boondock for a couple of nights in a quiet area during the weekend. So those weekend campers can come in and blow off their steam on Friday and Saturday nights. Then you move back in on Sunday and you're set for the next 5 days.
Tip number 3. Choose a campground with specific rules and regulations. Basically, what you're looking for is a campground that has quiet hours and enforces them. I think a lot of state parks tend to have quiet hours posted, and usually you'll see a park ranger sort of roaming about enforcing quiet hours. I think a lot of KOAs tend to have like quiet hours. More of the kind of upscale RV resort places typically post quiet hours. And that's something else that you can call and ask. Do you guys have quiet hours? Do you enforce them? I don't want to be somewhere where there's going to be a loud, rowdy party next to my RV. Most places are going to be honest with you and say, yes, we have quiet hours. We don't tolerate loud parties, whatever. And then other ones will say, this may not be the campground for you. And that's okay.
Certainly most state and national parks would have quiet hours, and even the city parks. Most campgrounds do. The real question is, are they enforced? And you might really reinforce that point with the staff before you choose a particular campground.
Oddly enough, one of the campgrounds I think where we've probably witnessed more people being up late at night and being a little bit loud is Fort Wilderness.
At Disney World.
At Disney World, yeah. And it's because a lot of people are coming in from the parks late at night. They want to sit outside and kind of relax from their day, and they probably get a little louder than they really realize that they are.
There are these darn fireworks that go off at 9 p.m. when I'm trying to get some sleep.
And that's true, so things like that you need to ask. Are you having a bonfire that everybody's attending at 10 p.m. and they're going to be walking back to their camper at 11:30 at night, or just events like that might affect the noise in your area? Looking for a campground that doesn't have those kind of events will probably help it be quieter.
Tip number 4 is a little bit unusual, and that is to seek out adult-oriented campgrounds. And of course, you can't find these everywhere in every part of the country. However, we've stayed at some campgrounds that have been age 55 and older, even though we weren't 55, because at the time, we didn't have any kids or pets with us. They let us stay there. So if you fall in a certain age category, you may qualify to stay in some of those communities that are RVing communities and campgrounds that are targeted to older people who tend to be more quiet. There's no guarantee, of course.
Now, you might have noise outside at 6 a.m. because they're out, watering their plants and washing their car at 6 in the morning. So it's kind of the opposite effect there. It's like, they may not be up at 11:30 at night, but they might be up at the crack of dawn in the morning.
When I think about noise we've encountered in campgrounds, quite frankly, some of the family-oriented campgrounds can be noisier because you've got a family of kids out who are just enjoying their time.
Yeah,
camping.
Little kids running and yelling and screaming.
Everything must be done in full vocal scream at all times, So we've definitely experienced that. The screaming may start at sunrise and it could go late into the night, who knows. But you kind of know that up front. And to be clear, I am certainly not complaining. Going to Disney World and complaining about noise is kind of like going to a discotheque and complaining about all the dancing. Within reason, it comes with the territory. I think it's true of a lot of the KOAs, frankly, because a lot of the KOAs are very family-oriented.
Jellystone parks, for sure.
Yeah, like these Yogi Bear type places.
Because they really are catering to families with young kids, And I think it's great.
I think it's wonderful for children and it's wonderful for families. But if you're just wanting peace and quiet, probably not the best choice.
I also think that campgrounds that don't have as many amenities, like they don't have power hookups at your site, they don't have full bath bathhouses, they don't have a swimming pool. Those kind of campgrounds that don't have those amenities are probably going to be your quieter campgrounds because they are people that are really searching for a camping experience.
Which is the perfect segue into tip number 5. Explore off the beaten path or lesser known campgrounds.
Yes, absolutely.
Because a lot of times there are campgrounds that don't have these amenities. They don't have a swimming pool. And guess what? That means people aren't running around screaming and splashing all day long. Kind of an upside.
Well, and
sometimes less is more.
Yeah, if they don't have power hookups, then you're not going to have people sitting outside blasting a television for the most part because they're probably going to be trying to conserve their power resources in their RV.
As long as they're not blasting a generator.
Well, this is true.
To power the TV set, and we have witnessed that.
Generator, yeah. We have been next to people blasting a generator to blast their television.
Blasting a 100 decibel generator to watch a TV set outside the camper. Okay? To each his own.
Yeah. So, I mean, it does happen. But for the most part, I think if you're going to these more remote basics kind of campgrounds where they don't have hookups, like national park campgrounds for the most part, don't have hookups. They don't have full bathhouses. So it is a true, more rugged, raw camping experience. And I think you'll find more peace and quiet in those locations.
To conclude, there's really no perfect way to guarantee peace and quiet if you're camping in a campground environment.
Yeah.
Now, I do think if you are adventurous and seek out some boondocking spots and are willing to stay outside of a campground and go without hookups, then you can find peace and quiet. Yeah. Maybe even disturbingly peaceful and quiet places.
And also, I think if you go further out from city centers, you know, a lot of those weekend campers are people that, you know, their kids got out of school on Friday, they load up the camper and they tow an hour away to a campground and stay for the weekend because it's super convenient. So if you get a little further outside of that radius of a big city, I think you'll encounter quieter campgrounds as well. Because, you know, most people aren't going to drive 4 or 5 hours for a weekend getaway. Also, maybe just get yourself some earplugs. I mean...
Actually, there are strategies that you can utilize inside your RV to make it more quiet. Earplugs, white noise apps, and so forth that will help mask out some of that outside noise. So we hope this list has been helpful. What about you guys? Do you prioritize peace and quiet when you're traveling with your RV? If so, are there any strategies that you use to pick a peaceful campsite? Please chime in, post a comment, share your experiences with our community, maybe fill in the gaps of things that we didn't discuss here.
Yeah, and I would also be curious to know, what do you think the late hours should be? Like, when do you think quiet hours should go into effect? Do you think it should be 9 o'clock? Do you think it should be 10 o'clock? Do you think it should be later than that on the weekends? I would just be curious to hear what people think of when they think of quiet hours.
You know, you got to kind of see both sides of it. You know, be respectful to your fellow campers and also understand that people are out enjoying life.
Right, exactly. I think there's a difference between people just sitting around a campfire chatting and laughing and cutting up versus people that are like having a party and like being really loud and obnoxious and vulgar and blasting loud music and just being a nuisance. You know, those are two different kind of scenarios. Both can be noisy, but one I think is more acceptable. The other one is just like, not cool.
Beer was a wonderful creation, but it's not conducive to peaceful camping. For sure. All right. Thank you, guys. This has been yet another episode of Long Honeymoon, the longest running honeymoon-themed RV show on the interwebs.
If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends and family, and until next time, what do we say? Lo-lo-ho.